Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. I'm going to entitle this video Attention Keyboard Players and Sound Module Users. There's a question I have for you guys because, primarily I'm a guitar player, but I write 99 or 95% of my stuff, my compositions on piano. I love the piano. I mean, I wish I was a really good piano player, but I come to the conclusion because I tried to self-taught myself back in the day. And it's not that I was trying to save money or it's cheap and I didn't want to pay anybody. When I was growing up, there wasn't that many keyboard players in the neighborhood. It was just guitar players, drummers, and bass players, So, I did the best that I could. And I actually went back later to say, before I die, I'm going to try to accomplish to become a good piano player or just a decent one. And just not going to happen unless, God going to give me an extra 200 years to live, But anyway, I have a question. And when I go into this, you keyboard players that are into MIDI and sequencing, you'll know what I'm talking about. Here's the scenario. You got your sequence in your keyboard, and then you went to your module because your keyboard is just your MIDI controller. So you go to your module and you select a patch. Say, okay, I want this piano. So once you select the patch and you put your sequence in, your 8 bars of that, and then you stop the sequence, and then you hit it again and let it go again. Now all of a sudden that patch that you selected is gone. It had to fall into some funky ass patch that you don't want. And I know sometimes you can go into the module and change or stop the program change. You should be able also to do it from your keyboard. But for some reason, sometimes it takes 2 hours to find it, figure it out. And once you do finally figure it out and shut it off the receiving, or it's changing programs when you stop the sequence, it goes back to that again later, because I got 4 different modules as I'm looking at them. And of course, each one is set up different as far as the menu. But each one of them, and even one of them is this is real funky. Again, you got the sound patch that you selected. Once you stop the sequence and start it back, it defaults to another one. You go in and find how to shut the signal off from it changing programs. And once you go back to the patch screen with the name of the patch, you hit the starter again to the sequence. It overrides it. I had turned it off, but in order to keep that particular patch there without it switching to default, you got to stay in a certain screen where it says, like you said, program, and you select it off or to shut it off. You got to leave it there. If you just try to go back to the screen of the patch name, it goes back to the default, and that's fine, even though that's a messed up way to do it. That's fine when you just pull in one sound from that module. It's like, okay, I just leave it with that screen open, because for some reason with that screen open, it won't change to the default, but when you're doing multi-timbre, when you pull in multiple sounds, you want to go back, you want to go to the next patch, because you're on MIDI channel 1, you got piano, then on MIDI channel 2, you got your bass thing going. But I'll make a long story short before this becomes confusing. First of all, that makes no sense to me, because out of all the years I've written songs on piano and did my MIDI sequence thing, I've never had to use a program change function. I mean, if I want a different patch, only thing I do is select another MIDI channel. So why do I need to have this machine or the module switching sound patches? And all of them that I've had, and I've had many sound modules because I'm just a sound freak, that every single one of them is set up that way. I'm like, wouldn't it make sense for it to not have that function on? And if you for some reason need to use it, which I've yet to ever have a need to use it, then I can turn it on. It's already on as soon as you get the module, and it's set up that way. It's kind of backwards because, again, I don't know anybody that uses that function. So I'm like, why did they decide to put this bullshit in here? Because it takes literally sometimes 20 to 30, 40 minutes to fix that. Then when you shut the machine off, sometimes it defaults back to the default. Now, the only sound module that I've ever had that never had that problem is the Roland JV880. You know, it does go to the default, but it's quick, it's user friendly. You can go in there and see where you can shut it off, and it stays off. It doesn't come back on. You know, it doesn't default to that setting when you shut the machine off. You know, but all the rest of them, you know, because I just purchased, which one is that? Actually, I've had this for a while. I just never used it. I'm glad I kept it. It's the Kurzweil PC. I think it's called a PC28. That thing got some serious meaty sound patches like pianos, you know, all types of electric pianos, acoustic pianos, some nice bass, some string stuff, because the majority of the sample or the modules that I run across, like I got a Huawei K4R, 99% of it is, I call them soundscapes. They real synthy stuff. And that's fine, because I use my synthy stuff as my background for my meat and potatoes patches, like my piano and my basses. You know, so I love that thing, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a meat and potatoes type of sound module. You know, the kind of stuff that, you know, instrumentation that Frankie Beverly and Mays would use, instead of techno stuff, where the majority of the techno and house stuff is just soundscape patches. It's like, that's fine, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to do this old school R&B feel where you hear a nice Fender Rhodes or a Wurlitzer, you know, or something of that nature, or organ with you know, Leslie rotary speakers sound going on, you know. So I love that thing. And again, the majority of them, and if anybody can explain this to me, because it doesn't make any sense to me, there, why is the default set on instead it should be just set off? Because like, I don't need this, but for some reason, if I do, I can turn it on instead of they default to being on, and you spend 20, 40, 30 minutes of your creative time being a tech guy to set this up. And like I said, I shut it down last night because I couldn't even figure out how to shut down the MIDI receiving in the Kurzweil. I'm like, you know, the other ones, if you keep looking, you can find it. It's like, I don't see anything in this Kurzweil that allow me to stop allowing it to go back to the default patch when I selected this patch. And every time I turn off the sequencer, shut it and stop it for a minute, start back on, it again defaults back to this funky default patch. So if any keyboard player out there, MIDI dude, that knows how to do this and shut it off for good, I would totally appreciate it. Till next time, take care. Thanks for watching.